have a story which is actually at the beginning of the book, which is pretty much every Saturday when we have a bit of time to have a breakfast without rushing to our respective engagement and my daughter to school. I always ask my daughter, what did you learn this week, And about a couple of years ago, and my daughter, that she's now 17, she asked me, but Daddy, you've been working for 30 plus years. What did you learn? Well, that question was quite a powerful one. I asked literally a couple of weeks to think about. And one day I took her for pizza. I explained what I've learned in my career. Now as executive coach, but working in different places. And she listened. She asked a lot of questions. And a few days later, I found a yellow post-it like this one on my computer. And she said, Daddy, I love the story. Why don't you write a book about it? And so I decided to write this book to answer to my daughter. But fundamentally, what I told her was, listen, I met, 1,000 of people in my life, and a lot of them from interviews. I was head of HR for 3 different organizations in my life, EBRD in London, World Bank, and the World Economic Forum. As a coach, I also worked and coached several hundred people. And so you may say that I had thousands of meetings, but then in reality, I didn't have thousands of different meetings. I have 100 of times the same conversation, because I noticed that people struggle with similar issues, regardless of any other variables. You can be from Uganda or Thailand or Italy, or you can be in a luxury company or banking or consulting. We all have similar thoughts, challenges to deal with. And so one day I literally, with the same colored post-its, I said, okay, which challenges did I see? What did I learn by listening all these people over the last 30 years? And they became 7 colors on the floor, literally. And I said, okay, this group of people had this challenge. This group of people had this challenge. And all of a sudden, I visualized that there was a journey that everybody goes through. This is, Carl Jung, adult development is not something that I invented. And so I thought, okay, these people have these different phases in their life, but some of them fail to understand, how the rules of this specific phase. And so I call it games. And so the idea of the book is fundamentally help the reader to find out where you are in your own journey, and how do you understand to progress. And the progression that I'm referring to, I'm not referring to becoming from a manager to vice president to CEO. It's really how you develop yourself as a human being. So this book is more focused on personal development, which I believe is a theme that everybody is interested. So this is not a result of a market analysis, but people that are genuinely keen to understand more about how to continue growing personally and also professionally. Before you embark in a journey, you need to understand the terrain that you're venturing. No? So the first couple of chapters is a preparatory warm-up to understand the journey. And I try to explain what are the 7 mega trends that are impacting who we are. And then also I invite the reader to challenge some of the assumptions that you have done in your life, because assumptions are a bit of a prisons, because you think in that way all the time. And I think it's important at times to take one step back and to say, do I still believe that this is valid in my own journey? And then you have these 7 games. I wanted to give one word per each game that hopefully helps the reader to remember and to crystallize the key feature of that game. The first one is the inner game. And the inner game is the capacity to, following self-reflection and analysis and maybe some coaching assessment that I provide in the book, to understand, okay, what are you good at? What is your calling? Once you master that element, you go to the next phase. I call it the better game. And the better game is the awareness that you need to master whatever game you're playing. You need to improve. You need to be pretty good in what you're doing. So you cannot rely exclusively on intuition and talent, but you really have to work harder to achieve a level of mastery and proficiency in whatever profession you choose. The next phase, I call it the outer and the caring game. Outer is develop contextual intelligence, so the capacity to connect the dots, and so the capacity to open the windows to understand what else is there other than your sector, your job, your role, and have also this mindset of intellectual curiosity, not to become an expert on everything, but at least to be aware there are other elements that can impact your role and how you understand them. And the caring game is, do you care about other people? Are you able to develop trust and collaboration with other guys, or you just compete with people? When you go through this phase, you go to the fourth one, which I think is actually quite the center of the book, which I call the crisis game. And the crisis game is the capacity to pause for a second and then understand what is coming next, which is, I call it the reinvention game. And then you go to what I call the revolution game. And I wasn't decided between revolution and legacy, but legacy to me is something more related to personal legacy, while revolution is more related to leaving a sustained change that is meaningful and positive for other people, your community, your country, your company, your family. It doesn't really matter, but there is an element of altruistic approach because you stop focusing exclusively on yourself. And the last, I call it the let it go game. And let it go game is the capacity to pass the torch to somebody else, to shift away, but not because you become cynical or lazy, but because you have developed a capacity rather than dependency with others. And all of a sudden, you're no longer needed, which is to me the ultimate sign that you've done a good job. Perhaps one story that I share is how you manage transformation, which is the moment of crisis and then reinvention. No, because I'm trying to explain the difference between managing change and managing transformation. Change is something that occurs outside you. Okay, let's say that you move to another country, you move house, you buy a new car, or whatever it is. You have to adapt to a change of external circumstances. Okay, yeah. But you're still the same person. You just have to adapt. However, transformation is something different, and I refer to Roman god, because when the Romans conquered Greece, they fundamentally cut and paste Greek gods, with the exception of one that is called Janus. And this god has two faces. One, the wise one, with the face of a, let's say, relatively old individual that represents gravitas. And gravitas means judgment, the capacity to reflect, wisdom. And then the second face is a young face that the Romans call Juventus, which is not only a soccer team, but means energy, positiveness, and optimism. And so the Romans have give us, I think, this wonderful symbolic god to say, listen, when you're managing a transformation, which is different than change, you need to have the experience of gravitas and the energy of Juventus. So I'm using this analogy to say whatever you've learned is still very relevant. Don't throw it away, but have also an attitude of optimism and energy and positiveness in whatever transformation you're going through.